Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Undesired and Prescribed podcast. I am Brown Sugar as ever, and today I'm here to give you your 2020 NFL spoiler alert playoff edition. So, playoffs, the regular season for the NFL ended Wednesday, not Wednesday, what the fuck am I talking about? Sunday night when the Redskins beat the Eagles after Doug Peterson, the biggest bitch in the world, decided to pull Jalen Hurts. You're tanking. Fuck you. Anyways, different topic. But yeah, so regular season ended Sunday night and everything has been finalized. Starting off in the NFC, the Packers have the bye. They're the number one seed. They won't play this coming weekend. And then you have the Saints, who will be taking on the Chicago Bears. And then you will have the um, Seahawks taking on the Rams, and then the football team taking on the Bucks. So good matchups down in the NFC. A lot of these are going to be pretty easy to call, I would say, especially for the wild card weekend. And then moving over to the AFC, we'll have some closer games, especially in that first week, with the Browns going to take on the Steelers, and then we have the Colts going to go take on the Bills. Not the Saints, Chiefs, the number one seed, so they won't be playing this weekend. But the most intriguing matchup, I think, for this coming weekend is going to be the Ravens versus the Titans in Tennessee. So I had already started with the NFC, so I guess I'll just go ahead and start there. And this is my whole predictions for how the playoffs are going to play out. Obviously, I'm going to revise this need be, and then obviously go more in depth about what is going to be as certain, injuries could unfold, coronavirus, whatever the case may be. So there'll be some revisions coming later on, but as of right now, these are my guns and I'm sticking to them. So, as I said, your NFL playoffs 2020 spoiler alert, because it's not a prediction. So, kicking off in the NFC, we'll be going with the Rams versus the Seahawks. Now, this is going to be a good matchup just because that whole division, is the NFC North. It's the division that the Seahawks and Rams play in. That has been a very tough division all year. And I think just about every single team has been like up and down. It's a very tough division, especially in the NFC. Like out of all the NFC divisions, I think this by far might have been the toughest. But every single team was up and down at one point in the season. Because I remember at the start of the season, I was really high on the Cardinals. I thought Kyler Murray was going to have a really big season, and it's not saying that he didn't, but he even started off strong, but he didn't maintain that same momentum throughout the rest of the season. So very up and down season. Now, right now, the Rams defense is very good. Their secondary with Jalen Ramsey leading the way, and then Aaron Donald, probably the best defensive player in football right now. The only other person that I think of that's even on his level is Khalil Mack, but I don't know, Aaron Donald. Those two guys are just something else. But so this matchup, it's like I said, this is going to be tough because there's a really good defense going against Russell Wilson, but it feels like he is really sizzled off. Remember when he was the unanimous MVP to start the season, like the first like 5 or 6 games, where it's like, oh, if you don't vote for Russell Wilson, then you don't, you're just wasting a vote, because he was a clear cut MVP. They were the first seed, they're undefeated, and then they lost to the Cardinals, and they're still okay after that, but they're such a good team to start the season off, and they really did sizzle down. And the more the season played out, the defense did get better. With Carlos Dunlap being added and then Jamal Adams, they traded for him, so they have to make that defense work very much. But this is going to be a tough one to call, because I truly believe that this one can go either way. I think the deciding factor for me, I'm going with the Seahawks to win in a close game. I'll say they win 34-28. I'm going to take them to win because I don't know. The last half of this year, or just this whole year, Goff just hasn't been. I don't want to say he's playing bad, but I don't know. He's been very turnover prone as of late in the later part of the season. And I don't know if he'll be 100% because I know they didn't have him for the last game of the season, which was a win and get in type of situation. So obviously he would have played if there was the opportunity for him to play. But he's been very turnover prone, just putting the ball on the ground and also just making not smart decisions. And I'm not putting out everything on him, but he is the quarterback. He's got to lead that team, and I don't know. He's just been very turnover prone. So I'm gonna have Russell Wilson and the Seahawks take that one, uh, 34-28, and then going to the Saints and the Bears. So this is just a no-brainer. Saints. I think the Saints are the best team in the NFC. I don't care that they're not the first seed. Seedings doesn't necessarily tell me anything. If anything, it's just who had an easier schedule. In all honesty, but definitely the Saints are going to take this, and no contest on this. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I think Sean Payton's going to come out. He's going to have a great game plan, and they'll just be firing on all cylinders. I will say, though, Mitch Trubisky has been playing fairly not no, he's been playing good football these last couple of weeks. So, although I think that has blowout material, I don't think it's a complete dismemberment, because the Saints defense, they came coming in to the season, they weren't playing all that good. Then they recouped. They got back to where they had been the past couple seasons, and then they kind of regressed towards the end once again. But that could have just been fatigue, whatever the case may be. It's a long season, so I do believe that this is probably the best coached team in the NFC, and it's just going to be very hard to beat them. They're definitely not looking to get humiliated again. So I will take the Saints to win 28-14. I'll go with that. No, I'll say 17. Like I said, Mitch Trubisky's been playing better football, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Saints throw at him, and if he's still able to make those plays. Because who do the Bears play in the last few weeks of the season? I want to say they played the Vikings. They just played a bunch of teams that really had nothing to play for, like the Lions too. I don't know, but I am going to give them that, but I want to give Mitchell Trubisky the benefit of the doubt, which is probably a very bad thing to do, granted, but he's been playing decent enough football to where he can have that at least. All right, and then moving on to the Buccaneers and the Redskins. Now, I genuinely believe this has a chance to be an upset. I think that this could be an upset in where Washington does win, but that being said, I'm still going to take the Buccaneers to win. The Washington offense is just not dynamic enough to be making big plays to keep up with Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, and then really Ronald Jones, who has been a much bigger part of that team than anyone would have predicted this year, especially after they picked up Fournette. So I'm still taking them to win, but that Washington defense is going to be something incredible, especially with that pass rush, because I hadn't seen too many Bucks games this year, but obviously getting Tom Brady on their team, they're put in prime time, so I definitely watched those prime time matchups, and they struggle with pass protection a lot, that offensive line. They have good run blocking. They make holes for Fournette and Jones, but when it comes to I think it was against the Saints. It was against the Saints, and they just flat out could not contain anybody from the Saints. Now, the Saints have a very good defense and a very solid defensive line, but the defensive line for Washington is far scarier. So I think that there's a chance of an upset, but that being said, I don't think it would happen. I'm still going to take Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to win. I'll take them 24-17 in a somewhat of a close game. All right, so that takes care of the first round of the NFC games. So we'll go over to the AFC, before we get into the second round. So this this would have been a harder matchup to call, uh, say 2 days ago, but head coach Kevin Stefanski tested positive for COVID, so he's not going to be there for that game, and that obviously is going to be a major hit to them because he is a very good coach, first year coach, and he has done such an incredible job of having to deal with a roster that definitely is not mature enough to be that they have the talent to be as good as they are, but they're definitely not mature enough right now. But he's definitely matured them up a little bit. He's brought them together. He designs really well plays, and he knows what to do and what not to do in order to keep them competitive and in games, if not win them. So him not being there is going to be a big deal. And they have the best offensive line in football, so it's still going to be a close enough game, especially since the Steelers defense have taken a lot of hits on defense injury wise throughout the season, especially towards the end. They lost a lot of their big pass rushers, or the ones that are going to make a difference enough to where Baker Mayfield isn't going to be comfortable. So I like I said, I don't know if it's going to be enough to Kevin Stefanski not being there to coach, I think is going to be the deciding factor in this game. So I will take the Steelers to win 28-27 in a close game. That'd be my call on that. So then going to the Colts and the Bills, I will say I am not high on the Bills. I think that Josh Allen has had a very good year, but he's like the he'd be like the Gucci. Nah, okay, I can't give him that much respect. What's his? All right, so Ryan Fitzpatrick is your Walmart brand of paper towels, okay? And Josh Allen to me is the Costco version of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is an incredible player, a tremendous athlete, and he's had a really good season, and I'm happy the Bills have him. I'm happy that he's doing so good. I'm glad to see that he is making such big impacts, along with the year that Stephon Diggs had with him. Big fan of him, so shout out to him for leading the league in reception. So very happy for him. But I'm just not as high on the Bills as a lot of other people are. To me, they have this big Ravens vibe to me. Remember last year with the Ravens on how they looked unstoppable, Lamar Jackson. Granted, this is not like the same kind of degree where everybody's like super high on them and they just look unstoppable. And granted, they put up 56 points on a really good defense. Was it 56? I think it was. They put up at least 50 points on a Miami defense, a very good Miami defense, who had a lot to be playing for that afternoon. So they really did put up big numbers when it mattered. It didn't even matter at all. So in that game to them. That being said, the Colts defense is very good, a really solid defense. And if they had anybody who is better than Phillip Rivers, which I am not going to sit here and say that Phillip Rivers by no means is a bad quarterback, but he is well past his prime. And at this point, you're not going to be able to rely on him to win you games. And I'm not sure if a rookie running back is going to have, because he put up like 260 some yards in the last game of the season. And I don't think that's something that he's going to be doing in the playoffs against a very solid defense. And I will say the Bills coaching staff is really good, from coordinator to head coach. Like every aspect of their coaching staff is superb, A+ in my opinion. So I'm definitely going to take the Bills to win this game over the Colts. I'll take them in convincing fashion this game, but not in the second round, but I'm definitely going to take them to win. I'll take them 30-17. And then moving into the last playoff game this weekend, and that is going to be when the Baltimore Ravens go on to take on the Tennessee Titans. I'm just going to say it flat out. Lamar Jackson, big game, on the ground, in the air, doesn't matter. This team is going to demolish the Titans. This is going to be a flat out blowout, and this is not a prediction. It's a spoiler. Shout out Paul Heyman. But no, they're pissed off, after the humiliating loss that they suffered last season from this team, to have a chance to right their wrongs from last season, and also just the fact that they were playing tremendous football when it matters most at the end in December, and now we're in January now. This is going to be a very, very motivated Ravens team that, quite frankly, I think that they are going to be very tough and nobody wants to play them. And I just think that early season struggles, it really has them at this point where they are not the division leader anymore and they're in as a wild card. But if anything, I feel like Lamar Jackson is using that as motivation to go out and have a really big game. Not to mention this team's defense. This is going to be something where I don't think the Titans are going to just be destroyed by them in any sort of way. I think Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry will be playing decent enough to where they can put up points, and it's not going to be like something where they get shut out or 3-and-outs every single drive and they get lucky every once in a while. It's still going to be that dynamic offense with Derrick Henry, obviously, and A.J. Brown. But, the Titans' defense has no pass rush at all, and going against the Ravens, they're going to need to find some ways to stop the run. No pass rush, no rush defense at all. Excuse me, I forgot to mention that part. But going against the Ravens, they need... I might have said the Eagles when I was saying them, but it's a fucking bird, and there's so many fucking bird teams in the NFL. But regardless, definitely going to stick with them to win out. Oh, I didn't even finish my point, but yeah, when you're going against... I think they're still the number one rushing team in the league. So, and if not, they're definitely still got to be up there, but... they need some way to contain that run because they're not going to stop it. Because if they're going to be stopping Dopkins, they'll go to Mark Ingram, then they'll go to Gus Edwards, and then obviously Lamar Jackson. But I truthfully think that Lamar Jackson is going to have a big game, a big afternoon, big night, whatever it's going to be, in the air and on the ground too. I think they're just going to win outright in a very convincing fashion. I'll say 36-20. I'll give them 20, if even that. I think that might be a little too generous for them. All right, but now this is going to be in the second round. We'll continue with the AFC, which, based off my previous picks, it would be the Bills taking on the Steelers. Bills would have home field advantage. Ravens versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are going to be coming off the bye, so they'll have their home field advantage. And then moving over to the NFC, it's going to be the Seahawks versus the Saints, and the Buccaneers versus the Packers in Green Bay. So these are going to be very interesting games, and games that I'm very excited for to see after all my predictions. after all of my picks happen the way they do. And I'll go ahead and make a bet on them too. I'll make a bet on all the games this weekend, but I'll do that off camera, and I'll do that. I'll do that, and I'll let you know how much money I bet. So anyways, let's start in the AFC. So I will take the Bills again, just simply because of the matchup that they're going against the Steelers, where they beat them outright earlier this season. The Steelers haven't gotten better since then. They still can't run the ball. They're still asking 50 billion year old Ben Roethlisberger throw the ball 50 sometimes, which he's still capable of doing, but he's obviously not that gunslinger anymore. His offensive targets just aren't as dynamic as in years past, and God knows why. They have tremendous talent. I don't know why this team can't put up the points that they should be. James Conner has severely regressed from his breakout season when Le'Veon Bell held out, and this just not a very good team at the moment, in my opinion, but good enough to be in the playoffs for sure. Bills beat them in convincing fashion, 31-14. So I'll give them, 31-14. And this is where I am not a fan of this, because before I sat down and took a look at the actual bracket, I'm thinking, all right, in the conference finals, we're definitely going to see the Chiefs and the Ravens. So the Ravens go against the Chiefs in the semis, and I'm kind of upset about that, because I really wanted to see them in the conference finals, because I don't think the Bills, if the Bills had to play either one of these teams, if they had to play the Ravens, I don't think they would beat the Ravens. I bet money, and I will bet money, but that they wouldn't beat the Ravens. So I will take the Chiefs to win this game. It will be, granted, the Ravens have always struggled in playing against the Chiefs. We saw it this year, and we saw it the previous year. So, but I think Lamar Jackson is a player that rolls with the punches and is willing and has the ability to learn from his losses and construct better game plans and work on himself to where he can be an actual threat to the Chiefs. But I just don't think that this is going to be it for them. Not this year. I will say it'll be an actual game as opposed to what we've been seeing from them. So I will take the Chiefs to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be one of those comeback games where they're playing from behind and Patrick Mahomes just goes sicko mode and just has to really make some big plays down the field in crunch time and win the game. I'll say that they win 27-24 over the Ravens. So that would leave the AFC conference championship game in Kansas City, where the Bills will travel to play the Chiefs. But before we get into that, we got to go back to the NFC, and where we have the Seahawks going to New Orleans to play the Saints, and then we also will have the Buccaneers going to play the Packers in Lambeau, in Green Bay, in a very, very cold, possibly snowy weather conditions. I don't know, but definitely that is definitely one of the places in the NFL, probably the most horrible place that you could play in the NFL at this time of year. So we'll go ahead and jump into that matchup. Now, we saw the Buccaneers smack the absolute shit out of the Packers last year. Not last year. Well, I guess technically last year, but earlier this season. But I think the Green Bay team that we have right now and that we've seen the past couple weeks, as opposed to the Green Bay team that got fucked up by the Buccaneers, is completely different. Granted, I'm still not sold on their defense. I don't think their defense is all that good. I don't think that they play with enough physicality, and when they are being handled a little bit, they tend to shut down a little bit. And I'm taking this part from Colin Cowherd, but they are definitely Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers dependent. If those two aren't going to be hitting and connecting, then I think the whole game could go awry. I think that they will be hitting and connecting, which is why I would take them. That's why I'm taking them to win this game. But who's that receiver with MVS Scantling? I don't know, whatever. Dropping literally open touchdown passes. Because when I think about it, on that team, who's their set second receiver? Who is somebody? Oh, they doubled Devontae Adams. Who can I throw to? And I just pause because I don't know. There's definitely not a second option on that team in the passing game. Aaron Jones is a very good, dependable running back, but there is just really nothing else that they can do if they find out a really good game plan to keep Devontae Adams in check. I'm not saying they shut him down, but this game can go either way in my opinion. But like I said, much different Green Bay team than what we've been seeing earlier in the season. So I will take them to win this game in a close 31-24 over the Buccaneers. And then we have the Saints hosting the Seahawks. Saints probably going to win outright here again. I think that them being the second seed is going to help them out a lot more for their games, because they just have easier matchups, taking on the Bears and then taking on the Seahawks, which again I don't think the Seahawks are scrubs, but it's just not the team that we saw. It's not the offense that we saw, excuse me. It's not the offense that we were paying attention to, where Russell Wilson was just making magic happen every other play. And he's still capable of that magic, but I think when you're in the semis in the playoffs, you can't be solely dependable on one player just carrying the whole team anymore. And if the defense steps up and the offense gets back to where it needs to be, this will be a very competitive game. But I don't know. Haven't really seen too many signs of life in that. DK Metcalf has really cooled down, and I was real high on him this season as well. Coming into it, I thought that he was going to have a big season. I didn't think he was going to have as big as a season as he did, but I thought he was going to be 1,000-yard receiver, bare minimum. But he seemed to just really cool down a little bit. But I don't know. It will be interesting to see how this game plays out. Mainly because I don't know how this weekend's game is going to play out, where the offense could just come back to life and everything is okay. They're just like conserving themselves, their strength, energy, whatever the case may be. But regardless, even if their offense is hitting on all cylinders again, their defense isn't going to be something to where they can carry, or it's going to be carryable. Not against the Saints, not with Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas is definitely going to be back by then if he's not back for this weekend's game, which I think he is. I think the whole point of putting him on IR was so he could come back for the playoffs, but like I said, not 100% sure there. Kamara, Michael Thomas, I already mentioned them, and Drew Brees, he's older, but he's still that same accurate, not going to make any mistakes type of player. He still does, especially that game where Alvin Kamara had like 6 rushing touchdowns. He's still very capable of making mistakes, but if you saw the game against Carolina, he's still sharp as ever, and he's going to be very focused. But also can't rule out the possibility of another Saints heartbreak. But no, I still think that they'll win. I think they'll win potentially a close game. Hard to say, considering we don't know how the Seahawks will be playing this weekend, but I'll take them to win 23-17. I'll say they miss an extra point. And that brings us to our conference championship games. In the NFC, we have the New Orleans Saints going to Green Bay to take on the Packers to see who's going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And then we'll have the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Buffalo Bills to see who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl. So my Super Bowl prediction is going to be the Saints versus the Chiefs. So why don't we jump into the Chiefs versus the Bills? No, we'll do NFC. We'll bounce off each other, like we'll ping pong it. So NFC, I don't think the Packers are going to beat the Saints if it gets to this point. I think the Saints finally overcome the heartbreaks, all the extra shit that goes on. I think they finally overcome it and finally get to the Super Bowl. I think that they are going to have a very tough and win a rugged game against the Packers. It's going to be in Lambeau. It's still going to be shitty, horrible weather, but I like them to overcome it. They have this very solid run game. They can use any number of backs, and they're going to be effective. Alvin Kamara, best running back in the league, in my opinion. But so they have him. Latavius Murray, probably the best backup in the league, if you can even call him that. He's such a physical runner. He could probably go to like just about any NFL team and be a starter. But it's and that is going to be big, especially playing games in Lambeau in late January. It's going to be a very important thing. And the Packers will have Aaron Jones, Lord forbidding an injury, and Jamal Williams, who are going to be very key components to that game. But I just think of the pass rush. I mean, not the pass, that D line with and Cam Jordan and Demario Davis, a linebacker, but still filling in the gaps on that D line too. I just think it's not going to be. And Aaron Rodgers is something special, but this secondary is going to have something that they can, put a little bit more pressure on Devontae Adams. I feel like, to where he's not just strolling down the field wide fucking open every other goddamn play. So I genuinely think that the Saints are going to. They lost them earlier this year, and it's probably a game that they felt they should have won. So I will take them to beat the Saints. I will take the Saints to beat the Packers and go on to the Super Bowl. And going over to the AFC, I've already said that I'm not super high on the Bills. They remind me a lot of, they're like a lesser version of the Ravens from last year, where it's just Josh Allen's not the MVP, and they don't have a solid defense. They don't have a very consistent run game. They have a committee of backs that can get the job done, but I don't think that they have a back that's going to be capable enough to be reliable, that they can rely on consistently. And my fear is that Josh Allen, he may crumble in the playoffs. I would not be surprised if he does not play as well as he has been. I think that offensive coordinator has really done wonders. I'm not giving him all the credit, but this honestly... So I keep saying that they give me feels of the Ravens from last year, but I think that they also have the potential. But they also remind me of the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. Obviously, without the Nick Foles and coming in, but where an offensive coordinator is taking a great talented quarterback, but enhancing him to the point where they are playing really good, but it has the potential to implode. I guess they only imploded once he got injured, blew his knee out, but I don't know. That's what it really reminds me of, but more so of the Ravens from last year, but just a lesser version of them. I'm not super high on them. Their defense is nothing spectacular. They do take the ball away the most in the fourth quarter out of any team in the NFL, I believe. So that's going to be very important, especially going against Patrick Mahomes and the explosive offense, especially since, they, throughout the season, they've been playing a little too comfortable at times. So I think it's something where the Bills capitalize on that early, but I don't think that they can maintain it. I think Patrick Mahomes puts on some heroics, wins the game. Probably not in spectacular fashion like how I predicted the game from the week before, but I just have a hard time seeing the Chiefs losing to the Bills. And finally, we have arrived at the Super Bowl, where we have the Kansas City Chiefs going on against the New Orleans Saints. Man, now this is tough, because from this whole season, I felt there's no reason why the Chiefs can't repeat. I just don't feel like there's any massive threat to them. I mean, there's teams that can beat them, obviously, but there's nobody where it's like, oh, well, they're not going to get past them, or somebody that's felt like consistent. I was like, I think they can contend with the Chiefs, but I don't know. I think if they're still playing with that style of, like what we do whatever, we're chilling, which I don't think they would in the Super Bowl, but I guess they did in the Super Bowl last year. But I don't think it'd work here. This Super Bowl will be very nice to see. I think very, very much enjoyable, explosive offenses, big plays. Michael Thomas, Drew Brees on one side, Kamara, and then on the other side you have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Cheetah. So very, very fun game to watch. It's always fun to watch the Chiefs play, Patrick Mahomes play, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Saints winning the Super Bowl this season over the Kansas City Chiefs. And for me, the reason why is the Kansas City defense is very good. They've played so much better than what people do give them credit for, especially from last season. They've improved tremendously towards the end, and they've gotten better over the offseason too. So it's not going to be because of that. I just think it might just be a shootout style game where I don't think these defenses are bad enough to where it's going to be a flat out shootout, but two future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and yes, Patrick Mahomes is already a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Don't fucking cheat yourself. Don't lie to yourself. He's a future Hall of Fame quarterback already. Where they're just doing battle on the biggest stage of them all. I mean, ideally, that's what you want to see in your Super Bowls, like the biggest and baddest fucking games possible. But I genuinely think that this has the potential to do it, where Drew Brees is trying to get one more to go out on top. Patrick Mahomes looking for back-to-back. And I think it's going to be an incredible game. The thing that I worry most about the Chiefs, aside from their, we're so good that we can't lose mentality, so they just play from behind and do some heroics and stuff like that. But is their run game? Their run game just doesn't feel consistent enough to me. I figure Edwards-Helaire will be healthy by playoffs, especially with the extra week. I think he'll be fine and healthy, but I don't know. It just doesn't. And when I say consistent, it just doesn't feel like they use it enough. Like they have Le'Veon Bell as well, but it just doesn't feel like they really use either of those guys enough to where they feel like a credible threat. And I see that D line getting to Patrick Mahomes and putting the pressure on him to maybe to throw a ball earlier than what he wanted to, and then Lattimore or Jenkins takes advantage of that by picking that ball off, or I don't know. I see a lot of potential flaws in that game for the Chiefs. And granted, Drew Brees can't get the ball downfield anymore, and they don't really and they already don't even have a deep threat like that. But I'm it's just hard for me to see the Saints get bounced from the playoffs every single year on heartbreakers, it feels like. So I think that this is their year, that they finally overcome it all and take the chip, and Drew Brees goes out on top. So everybody, thank you so much for listening to my spoiler for the NFL playoffs. So by all means, hit me up and let me know your thoughts and what you think is going to happen for the playoffs this year. I'm thoroughly excited to see playoff football. Really good time of year. Basketball's on. Playoffs are starting for football. So it's really, really good time to be a sports fan right now. So, and guys, enjoy it as much as you can. And as I said, please talk to me about this. I love talking sports. I love to get your thoughts and opinions, and maybe open my eyes to something that I didn't think of before. So, because I didn't go super in depth about every single matchup, otherwise we'd be and every single pro and con to every team, because otherwise we probably would still be in that first round right now. But guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening. So take care.